Hey everyone, welcome to the Slices Technology Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Taylor. Joining us today is Victor Riparbelli, the co-founder and CEO of Synthesia. Victor, how's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Super excited to have you here. Let's dive right in. So first question for you. You started the company a couple years ago. You've really been a pioneer in AI video creation. I'd love to first hear what inspired you to start this company, but more so than that, because I know you've told that story before, how has the vision evolved since you first founded the company back in 2017?
Yeah. So I guess kind of in spirit, Synthesia really started back in 2016. And the kind of eureka moment was when I met my today co-founder, Professor Matthias Niesner. He'd done a research paper called Face to Face. And when we look back at that today, much less impressive because the world has moved on, and as we, AI video is having a huge moment right now. But back then in 2016, we saw for the first time, it just felt to me like, even if this is very, very, very early, this kind of technology is going to change the world the world really, but specifically around media production and video production. And I think it's one of those things where I feel a bit like, people when they try ChatGPT for the first time, you get this like holy F moment, right? This is wild. Like it's like you're almost like in disbelief. Arthur C. Clarke said once that great technology is indistinguishable from magic, and I think that's kind of like the feeling I had when I saw it for the first time. And actually, it really started with that. The sort of main idea at the time was, in 10 years, everyone is going to be able to make a Hollywood film from their laptop without needing anything else than just imagination. Because rather than having to film things with cameras and actors, you're going to be able to just stream it up by using AI on your computer, right? And in many ways, I think, falling in love with the technology is not the right way to start a company, some would argue. But that's really what we did, right? Because this vision was clearly like so far ahead in the future that it was then up to us to figure out, okay, great, that may be true in 10 years. And I actually think that if we look a few years ahead of where we are today, that the prediction may actually end up becoming somewhat true. But then the question is like, how do you sequence your way there, right? Because unless, maybe you're like Sam Altman or something, it's very difficult to raise $1 billion to just run a research project until you reach this like absolutely crazy goal. So the vision in some ways hasn't changed in that we still fundamentally believe that this is true. We also believe that as this becomes more and more true, business video, which is what we mainly kind of work with today, is going to look more and more like a Hollywood production, right? The reason that when you do your HR training at a big bank, the reason that video is really boring is not because people want it to be really boring. It's just because you don't have the budget to do it in like a really, really awesome Hollywood style production, right? But if you could do that, who knows, maybe all corporate videos will be like watching a Spielberg movie or something like that. But I think what did change, right, was that we sort of had to figure out, okay, what's the entry path into building a company around this technology? And the first thing we kind of settled on was the idea of translation. There's a huge problem still today, right? But with video translation being very difficult, either you put subtitles under it, which kind of like pulls the viewer away from watching what's going on screen because you're reading the subtitles, or you use dubbing, which is when you talk over in a different language. In Germany, Spain, Italy, this is very common. And for someone who's not from Germany, Spain, or Italy, grew up with this, it just looks completely crazy, right? Because the mouth movements doesn't match what's being said. The voice is not from the actual actor. And it's kind of, in some ways, pretty surprising that this works. But it does because many people don't speak English, right? It's actually 80 to 85% of the world's population that doesn't speak English. So we attacked this problem first because technologically we felt like we probably could solve that problem. Instead of synthesizing an entire video, every single piece of the video needing to be generated, we only had to generate new lip movements that would match a different language. And that's a much more tangible kind of way to approach building this kind of technology. So we sort of started from the mouth. We built this translation product, which wasn't like a total disaster, but it didn't really scale. It wasn't very robust. But it kind of got us to the point where we eventually invented the idea of avatars, which is what our platform is based around today, and focused more on video creation rather than translation. But funnily enough, we're actually now launching a new translation product, which takes us right back to the initial start, where you can upload any video, no matter what it is, and we'll give you back a translated version, where it's you in your own voice or the actor's voice speaking in Spanish, Italian, or German, or whatever. The lips are synchronized, and it's all a one-click operation. And that's purely because the technologies now are just like that much more scalable, they're that much more robust, and so it's kind of an interesting journey of lots of zigzagging.
It's because in the past, you'd go on like a Fiverr or one of these websites, and you'd say, dub over this right with your language, and it would end up being like you could have this massive like bodybuilder guy, and it would be like this. If they translated it to a different language, it could be like a very high pitched voice, right? That's why all these shows are funny that haven't got that down yet. So, well, you mentioned one of the things I wanted to ask you, which was really kind of where did you start and the challenges. So, like, I would love to hear more about like creating these AI generated videos in all these different languages is a significant technical achievement. Can you walk us through? I know you gave us a couple things. You saying where you started. The most challenging aspects of developing multilingual capability.
Yeah. So I think the way to think about the kind of platform in its current state is that it's all about like generating new videos, right? So you create this idea of an avatar of yourself, or you choose some of our stock avatars that's available on the platform, and then you simply just type out the script, and you get a video out of that actor or yourself saying whatever you put into that script. Obviously, doing this in a way where it looks and feels entirely real is really, really, really difficult. First and foremost, humans are incredibly good at spotting just the slightest errors in anything to do with humans, and specifically human faces, right? And the way that we've kind of approached it is you want to start with the kind of simplest problem, right? But most important, and that's the lips. So if you're creating a video with an avatar, what the first generation of the technology did was actually it took a real video of like you speaking with the hand movements and everything, and then it would actually just redub that video by changing the lips. And that illusion kind of worked. Most avatar platforms out there do exactly this. You just replay an original video, you change the lips, and it sort of works. But you get these kind of weird videos out where the hand movements is like completely out of sync with what you're saying, kind of like I'm doing right now, which kind of throws people off, right? But that's where we started. And then last year, we released our Express 1 model, which is essentially synthesizing every single pixel in the body, which means we can synchronize the head nodding, the eyebrow movements, the hand movements is coming very, very soon. And now it's actually a fully generated video. It's not just kind of a looped video with some lip synchronization on top, right? And the things that makes this challenging is that people have been doing this for a long time in Hollywood. But when Hollywood does it the traditional way with no AI, right, it's like $5 million to create 5 minutes of footage. It's extremely expensive. There's a lot of human artists sitting down, modeling every single little piece of you, how you talk, how you sound, and so on. And we need to do this with 2 minutes of footage off a webcam, right? And we need to be able to do it at a price point, which, I mean, our lowest price point today is $30 a month. So as you can probably imagine, like taking all those Hollywood workflows and compressing them down into something that works on 2 minutes of footage, not like 500 cameras and an array around you, and within 24 hours is pretty difficult. But I'd say with all these things, the by far most difficult thing is actually the last 5%. That really makes it feel real, right? When you look at most Hollywood films, you can tell when it's a digital human, even though it's done really well, there's just something in the way that they move or look that's really off, right? And I think those last 5%, that's actually where AI is incredibly valuable, because AI can just look at real footage of you and it can learn what all those imperfections are and kind of correct it themselves.
So let's talk me through, like, you have a couple different packages, right, that people can sign up and start working with you. In the base package, they're getting the avatars that you have, but if they go up, they can have an avatar that looks and sounds like them, right? So how many videos do you actually need to give them to train it? What does the quality of the videos need to actually be? And I guess what should people know when they're using the platform, when they're first getting started? Like, how long does this process typically take from the moment you sign up to the moment that you start putting out your first video?
So we just launched our personal avatars product, which is kind of like a refresh of the create a clone, an AI clone of yourself. And it's super fast today. So you can do it in two ways. You can either do it straight from your webcam. You just go into the app, you say, make an avatar, we open up your webcam, kind of like we're doing right now, and then you talk for 2 to 3 minutes, and that's really all you need. Your avatar is then ready 12 to 18 hours later. That should be a lot faster pretty soon. and that gives you like a really good result. And the other thing you can do is you could go out and you can film it with a professional camera, and that could be you sitting in the park having a picnic. It could be you in a professional studio. Really, that's just up to your imagination. The thing with these algorithms is that they essentially mirror the input. So if you record your avatar like we are now with a webcam, your avatar is going to look exactly like that. It's going to be you sitting in an office in webcam quality. And if you go into a studio and you record it in like super high resolution with your makeup on, all your clothes are ironed, you look perfect, that's what your avatar is going to look like. So in that way, it's kind of like actually pretty easy, because sometimes, if you're doing like personalized sales outreach, for example, maybe you actually want it to look like you're just sitting in an office. But if you're doing like an investor presentation or something like that, you probably want it to look like a bit more polished, right? If you're the CEO of a publicly listed company. So it's a very flexible product, and it just really affords people to create the avatar that kind of looks and feels right for their needs. We're not that far away from this being able to be something where you can kind of just prompt it. All right, so what you really want to do eventually is that you submit like a couple of minutes of footage, probably, where we learn your voice, we learn your mannerisms, how you look, and then from there, it's just you saying, hey, I want to be a barista in a coffee shop, or I want to be inside a spaceship, or I want to be in a supermarket, or whatever thing you want to do. Like all the pieces of the puzzle here are really coming together, and I think in the coming years we'll see so much insane progress on what you can do with these technologies, and that's gonna remove it even more from you having to do anything in the physical world.
I think one of the really cool things about this too is you have people out there that probably want to have more of a online presence and be able to do personalized videos and things like that, but they don't maybe necessarily feel comfortable, but they want to be able to get the message out. So now for them, right, you can have footage of them, and then they can write a really good script of what they want to say. It kind of gives them a chance to have a better voice than maybe they would if they were trying to do these videos maybe
100%.
Awkwardly on their own, right?
This is actually I think this is one of the most interesting learnings we've made over the years. When we kind of first started building this product, we found kind of like two types of people. There's one kind of person who generally does not want to be on camera themselves because they're shy, they don't want to be like famous, like well known or whatever. And basically today it's impossible for these people to create videos, right? So using like our stock avatars, for example, or when you can generate them like pretty soon, that means you're going to get a whole new slew of kind of virtual influencers, which in many ways may not actually be that different from any other TikTok influencer talking about the latest makeup products or like what's happening out in the world. The only difference is going to be that while it's still controlled by a real person, the person you're seeing doesn't actually exist in the real world, which is weird. But in other ways, how many TikTok influencers that you watch are you ever going to see in real life? Probably very few, right? And then there's the other part of this, which is, as you said, is how hard it actually is to record yourself on camera. Like people don't like their voice, they don't like how they look, and I think, especially a couple of years ago, we'd had a lot of investors who would say but why do you need this? Like you can just pull out your phone, record yourself. It isn't really that difficult. But everyone, I think, who's tried to even create a Loom video, which is not just a bug report or something you're sending to a friend, you will probably have re-recorded that video like a lot of times. I'm by now, after having been, in the seat of Synthesia for like 7 years, I do a lot of interviews and things like that. But even when I do a Loom for the entire company, it would easily take me 5 to 10, re-recordings for even just like a 5-10 minute long video. Now I use my avatar instead, and it's so much more efficient. I can have my team help me write the script, and I can just kind of okay it. So it is going to be a massive accelerant in terms of how much video we're going to create, right? Because you take those barriers and you remove them.
Let's talk about one of the, maybe the concerns out there, right? A big thing is AI ethics.
Yeah.
Talk me through, let's say, like, how do you address the potential concern issue around misuse of AI-generated videos, such as deepfakes?
So I think these technologies are going to be used by bad people. They already are being used by bad people, and we need to do everything we can to stop them, right? I think there are two sort of main categories of misuse. There's one which is what I think most people think of as like deepfakes, which is taking a politician or someone who's well known, or for that matter, even you and I, and creating videos of us saying and doing things that we actually haven't done in real life. And then there's the other category, which is more like creating fake TikTok influencers talking about at the more kind of less serious in some sense, like just I love to use this shampoo, and the more serious end of the spectrum, disinformation or spreading all kinds of propaganda, etc. And we address these in two different ways, and I really hope, and I think that most companies are taking this seriously, but everyone really should. The first one for us is consent. So we never create an avatar of anyone without the explicit consent. So if you go and try and make an avatar of yourself on the platform, you'll also find that you go through this process. We have to read out this passphrase, and there's a bunch of tech and moderation to make sure that no one can create avatars of people that aren't themselves, essentially, right? So that's the kind of first step. The second step, which addresses more kind of like the, using fake people to talk about like all kinds of things, is that we have very strict content moderation. So when you make a video in Synthesia, the script actually goes through a system comprised of both humans and technology. And we assess whether it follows our content policies. For most users, you'll never notice this because, of course, most users don't create content that they shouldn't be creating. But if you, for example, try to go and create video content about conspiracy theories or hate speech or other kind of things that's not allowed in our content policies, the content will not be generated in the first place. So I think that is really important that we make sure those safeguards are in place. Now that this space is exploding and there's like lots of people building with these tools, what we will see is that it will unfortunately also get easier for the bad guys because things like open source is very difficult and some will argue shouldn't be regulated at all. There may be players who care less about ethics than others, and that's not to say that we have the ultimate answer to everything. But I really do hope that that people developing these technologies take their responsibility seriously.
How do you envision the role of AI in industries like education, entertainment, where video content is crucial? Where do you see Synthesia's place in working with those types of industries?
So I think if we look at video, right, why do people like to watch video? I think at its core, it's because video is closer to how we biologically were built to consume information, right? Like when you walk around the real world, you smell things, you see things, you hear things. You don't just see like letters appearing in front of you like you would when you're reading something, right? So biologically, we want to stimulate all our senses, how we consume information the best. And in some areas of our life, I would argue things like entertainment, for example, video is already like a really high percentage of the content you consume. At least it is for me. I watch TikTok videos, I watch YouTube, I watch Netflix, etc. And that's because in something like entertainment, right, there's enough kind of incentive to create video content. If you're Netflix, you can afford to spend $50 million on making a film because you're going to make that back through people streaming it or whatever. So there's already like a lot of video available. It's still restricted to like a few people who really can make video. On YouTube, you could say kind of like there's a lot more people who create content. It's still not, most people not that great at creating content, but there's a lot of people who can create content. But still someone like a YouTuber, right, is very restricted in the type of content they can create. Unless you're like Mr. Beast, really what you can do is like you can talk to your camera, you can record some prank videos, you can put some B-roll footage, right? But you're not going to be able to like bring alive, some new sci-fi idea that you have for yourself. And that's going to increasingly going to be possible. But then you look at things like education, you look at things like business video, where the starting point is just that a lot of this content doesn't even exist in video today, right? If you go to like a primary school somewhere, probably most of the materials that they consume is text-based. And that's because there isn't enough incentive to create video, right? It's simply too expensive to create, it's too difficult to update and to maintain. And so it defaults back to text. And what we're going to see with these technologies is that I think for a lot of kids, learning about history is easier with a really, really well-produced video. I think they just retain more information. And that is going to be possible, right? You're also going to start to see even more, I think, exciting things with these technologies, which is that the videos can become interactive. They can become dynamic, right? Maybe you and I are not going to watch exactly the same video. If you're a kid in primary school and there's a section about some historical figure, maybe you can ask questions. That's something that wasn't in the sort of the linear videos that we're used to, right? Video is going to become a very different format when we can generate everything with code. And once you link them up to LLMs, like ChatGPT, for example, I think we're going to start to see some really, really interesting kind of media experiences unfold. But I think the simplest way to think of it is that it is a floor raiser, right? If you look at all the world's information, much more of that information is going to be available in a video format. And I think that's going to be really awesome for the world.
Outside of your company, what other AI technologies are you most excited about? And Do you see any of those being able to integrate with Synthesia's platform in the future?
Yeah, I mean, so we already integrate with a bunch of other AI technologies like language models, GPT technologies being the most obvious one. Like we can help you write your script, we can help you design your video, and a bunch of other things. If I look at just my own life, Claude and ChatGPT, I mean, I use it many times every single day. So everything from like rewriting an email because I'm in a hurry, to doing research, to helping me be creative around different things. And I have no doubt that that's only gonna, we're only gonna use these technologies more and more, right? It's kind of interesting because I think in some sense, I forgot who said this, but it's more kind of a technology we discovered rather than something we invented. And we're still figuring out what it can do, what is it good at, what is it less good at. And even if its current state, if you froze all technological progress, I'm very convinced that GPT language model technology is going to change so much about how we work, learn, entertain ourselves, etc. But it's going to take some time for us to iterate over it and figure out what are the most valuable ways we can use this, right? For us, it's also things like image generation, which kind of goes with content creation, right? The way that I think most video creators today work is that you use Shutterstock, Getty Images, stock photo platforms, which are really cool. They have a lot of content, but you still can't get exactly what you want, right? And with image generation technologies, right, you can literally just type out what kind of image you want, and that makes it easier for you to tell a story. In this category of avatars, for example, maybe you want to have an avatar who's standing on a construction site. You want to be able to prompt that. So I think all these technologies kind of interplay together, right? And I think in the future, like, you know, what we're really good at and we want to be really good at is the AI avatars, the humans in those videos, but we will connect with a lot of other players. We already connect with a lot of other players in the ecosystem.
What's next for the company that really has you excited that you can share with us here today?
So we're getting very close to releasing the next generation of avatars, which is gonna take it from being, I think in many ways, those people who've used the avatars, they will find that they're great for kind of like instructional content. They're still a little bit stiff, right? They're not great at like telling jokes, making you feel something because they don't have that sort of emotional intelligence yet. But we're very close to cracking that. And once we crack that, it's going to open up a lot of new use cases because we'll get to the point where these avatars can tell you a story. They'll captivate you. They'll make you sad or happy or angry. And that it's really difficult to get this working in a way where that actually works. But we're not far away from it. And I think that's going to be a game changer in the space that we operate in. And then the other thing we're launching is translation. That should be more than a month or two out of existing videos. So not generating new AI videos, which is what most people use our platform for today. But let's say once we're done with with our interview here today, you could take that video, upload it directly into Synthesia, and you'd just get the Spanish version back, where it'd still be your voice in Spanish and be my voice in Spanish, and you wouldn't have to do anything else than literally just upload it. So what this does, it unlocks your entire existing content library in a new way, and that's going to be very cool as well.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, think of just the reach, right? Where people that do business in all these different countries, that now they can actually speak to the people there in the language that's their primary language. It's
Exactly.
truly a game changer.
Really is.
One of the things I want to ask you as we wrap up here is this is a fun question I do with guests. What's one thing you can laugh about now, but made you want to cry when it happened?
There's been a lot. So when we had to we raised our first round, which was $1 million, Mark Cuban back in 2017, after a desert walk of trying to get anyone to put money into the company. But Mark Cuban saw it and he shared our vision. And he put $1 million in. The round after that was, I think, 1.5, 2 years later. We built some initial technology. We thought it was really cool. We saw all the potential in it. But it clearly wasn't really working right, and it definitely wasn't a business at that time yet. But we went out to the market, and I think we were a little too eager. We were like, this is really cool. Like, this will change the world. And so we went out, and we essentially had too big of an ask. We thought our valuation could be much higher than what it ended up being. We thought we could raise much more money than we thought than we actually could. And that was a big slap in the face because I went all around the world trying to get us to the next stage of funding. And it was just no's and no's and no's and no's and no's. And looking back now, what you should do as an entrepreneur, right, is you go out with something to the market that's a bit more realistic. Maybe it's even conservative. And if you get a lot of interest in your round, then you can pull those numbers up. But we kind of did the opposite. We started too high. And then when you started too high and everyone said no, it's very difficult to come back to people saying, hey, actually, you know what? We think it makes much more sense to raise money at like half the valuation that I came to with 3 months ago. Because immediately all investors are going to think everyone else passed and now you're desperate trying to get them to put some money in. So the psychological game around like fundraising and the story around your company is really important. And I think when I look back at that now, we can laugh about it because we were young and a bit disillusioned. But at the time, it wasn't very fun, and we were a few weeks away from going bankrupt. So that's one that comes to mind.
Yeah, when I ask that question, I immediately see on people's face, it's like their life flashes before their eyes. There's like always like because there's definitely more than one, right? But I only want one from you today. But yeah, it's well, Victor, I'm so excited for you and the team and your energy and how excited I can tell you are in building this company is so welcoming, and I know our audience is going to love to see that. But I want to thank you so much once again for joining us here today and talking a little bit more about what you're doing and what you're excited about and really what the future looks like of this avatar technology. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Jared. Appreciate it. This was fun.